Alright, next up we have hydroelectric power. Once again, it requires no fuel and it produces no pollution. However, to build a dam, you need to flood a large area. If we go back to see the picture of the hydroelectric dam, you can see that all of this area has had to be flooded, okay, for the dam to be built. Originally, probably this river would have only been a very tiny piece of land down the middle. But once the dam was built, then the level of the water would have started to increase gradually until it would have um, flooded this whole area. So that in itself is also a bit of a problem towards the environment, because you will be destroying habitats for habitats belonging to certain animals, and destroying a number of trees, a number of plants. Okay, it might even, which this is in fact the second point, it can destroy natural habitats and lead to extinction of endemic species. Okay, the word endemic, okay, implies plants, refers to species that live only in that area. So if you are to flood that area, then that organism, that plant or that animal, it will be extinct because it has nowhere else to go. Finally, it is impossible in flat regions. Okay, so you can't just create hydroelectric power plants anywhere you'd like. You need to have the geographical area of hills and valleys, so that you would be able to trap the water in a valley or in a gorge or whatever, so that you would be able to build a dam, get the pressure going, and then have the hydroelectric system working, okay, like we mentioned before. Moving on, we have the wave power that we mentioned. Again, no fuel needed, no air pollution. The disadvantages are the following. The floating generators are needed, which spoil the shoreline. These floating generators, since they're floating, they have to be on the surface. So imagine somewhere like Melliha Bay, okay, and it would be covered with these generators to try and get some electricity out of the sea. It will definitely spoil the shoreline, so whilst it will create electricity out of nothing, so to speak, it will, however, then have other effects, like it can damage tourism, which especially for Malta is something very important. So one has to consider that one. It can also, once again, harm natural habitat. The floating generators might cause shadows, meaning the less sun would reach the bottom of the sea beneath it, and that can cause, well, the plants below to not get enough sunlight, so they can get damaged, they can get sick. So they can also they can harm natural habitats. Tidal energy, again, no fuel needed and no air pollution. Now, this is only possible where the tide is high. As I had mentioned, in Malta we only have about 9 centimeters of tide, which means that tidal power for us is practically impossible. Once again, it can also harm natural habitats, because as we saw in the picture, you would still require these large pylons coming out of the ground, which would require construction, and they can affect the habitat, making it impossible for them to breed or to live. So that might cause a problem. Okay, as you can see, even from the size of the ship over here, these structures would be quite large. So even only the construction, having to build these, will also affect the areas below where they are going to be dug in. Okay, so yes, they can also harm natural habitats. Finally, geothermal, once again, it requires no fuel. This requires deep drilling, which can be difficult and generally expensive. Now, this is mainly a problem because the energy produced here is not that high. So when you compare the amount of money you are going to spend to get this geothermal energy, and when you compare that to how much energy you are going to get, okay, it might seem as if it's not really that worth it. You are better off probably investing in another form of energy, like, say, solar power or wind power. Those are the advantages and disadvantages of each type of alternative sources of energy, of renewable sources of energy.